live. Yeah, we going live. Hey, we going live. Yeah, we going live. Yeah, we going. Yeah, we going. Yeah, we going live. From the 50-yard line, we going live. From the 50-yard line, we going live. From the 50-yard line. Hey.
All right, Step. So the NBA is gearing back up. A few days ago, folks reported to camp, almost everybody except Ben Simmons. And what we're starting to see is that, if I'm not mistaken, it's California and New York are the states that are going to mandate that the players be vaccinated in order to play in those home arenas.
Yep.
And so I think after looking at Kyrie Irving's virtual media day, I'm finding it very hard to understand his angle, right? So for those of you who don't know, Kyrie Irving is not vaccinated. He has been seen liking anti-vax posts on IG and Twitter, I believe. And he doesn't want to be asked any questions about his decision. Now, he from reports, he's open to getting the vaccine, but he hasn't committed to that yet.
Did you hear that come out of his mouth? Because reports don't mean nothing to me.
That's true. They said that he's left the door open to get the vaccine. But if he doesn't get it, that means that there are quite a few games, and they keep saying 50%, but it's more than 50% because they're going to play the Golden State Warriors, they're going to play the Lakers, and they're going to play the Clippers. So he wouldn't be able to play in those games, nor any of the home games at the Barclays Center.
Right.
How do you feel about this? Because I know I understand being anti-vax. I do, because you remember, I didn't want to hear anything about taking this vaccination. I really didn't. And so at this point, and we can't look at it in a vacuum, but just given everything that surrounded Kyrie.
Yeah, I'm looking at this from Kyrie, not the vaccine versus not being vaccinated.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you feel about this?
Like we talked in our production meeting about this, and you gave me the proper word, because I kept saying antagonist, which is still true. But I think you gave me the perfect word for what I'm about to say. I just think that Kyrie Irving is a contrarian.
Yes.
And so, and my proof of this is that somebody who has been to school at any level of grade school knows that the earth is round.
Yeah.
But you would come out and say, I believe the earth is flat. That lets me know right there. It's not about logic. It's not about anything other than you being what do they call it? Antithesis. You are literally a contrarian.
Yeah.
So if I say the sky is blue, you're going to say, no, it's red.
Yeah.
That's just who you are. That makes no logical sense. Anybody who looks up would see that the color blue is more in the sky. Yes, we might have hues of red when the sun's going down, but the sky is blue.
Right.
So I feel like that is just his MO, his persona, is to be a contrarian. And so for that reason, I put very little. That's why I said, when you said somebody said he was open to, if I hadn't heard it out of his mouth, I don't know.
Right.
But that's possible, because in private, when you're not being this persona, you might be saying stuff that makes perfectly logical sense. But this is the persona you've taken on, and therefore you have to keep going with it.
You got to keep it up.
You got to keep it up. It's just who you are. And so for me, I feel like that is what he has done. He has created himself to be a villain in the NBA. Mm-hmm. And in the way of being, like I said, somebody who's always just going to say what's controversial and always, anyway. So that is just his what's the stance he's taken as far as who his personality is for the NBA. So I would expect nothing different from him than to be in this space. And I know, like, I like this dude on some levels. Like, some of the stuff that he's done, I really appreciate. Like, so I'm not dogging him when I say that. I'm just saying I feel like that is the line he's drawn in the sand, right?
Right.
What I would hope is that the reason he's taking this stance is he believes strongly in not being vaccinated, and he wants, because he knows his stature. He's like probably the most, I don't want to use the word popular, but he's the most visible.
Yes.
Probably one of the most visible members of the NBA who has not been vaccinated at this point, or who's at least being very vocal about not being vaccinated at this point. And so his absence makes a difference. So I feel like him, this may be his way of having of sparking the conversation.
Well, so an interesting conversation has come up from NBA, from NBA staffers who are upset that they are being mandated to get the vaccination, and they have to be around players who have a choice.
Are not. That's right.
Which, I think that's unfair on so many levels, but how do you feel about that? Like,
I don't know how you, that to me is I agree it's unfair, because I look at it as a status thing. It kind of feels much like our society.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like
the haves and the have-nots.
You exactly. Because we see more value in you. We're not going to force you to do what we would force the other people that we don't necessarily see as much value in.
Right.
And it just isn't. Why? I'm a human being there, human being. Literally this morning, I was walking the dog, off subject, I know. And I was, because somebody had posted on TikTok about this young man in Iowa who got killed.
Yeah.
Barry Washington Jr., I believe is his name.
Okay.
He was killed at a bar by a white man, straight out, because he was in the bar, gave a compliment to this man's girl. They got into a fight. He was getting his butt whooped. So once the fight kind of broke out, they were still talking. He just pulls his gun out and he kills this man, cold blood. And then she's standing there laughing. They done called him the N-word several times during the altercation anyway, right? So he gets arrested, charged with second-degree manslaughter. Now he's out on bond. And so it just brought up to me this whole thing about race was a social construct that was put together.
Right.
The differences in our hair texture and our skin color are the only differences we have. So somebody needed to divide us, and it's working. That's what I was thinking in my head. Somebody at some point who was trying to make a point of making us feel less than because our skin was darker and our hair texture might be different. The same kind of feeling I get about this right here.
Yeah.
You are creating division. Those people are going to resent those players.
Right.
Because you said I had to do something that we all work for the NBA.
Right.
Don't they sign your checks too, boo? I know your check might have way more zeros than mine, but don't they sign it? So we're all the same. So I got a problem. I'm sorry, I went off on that little.
No. That's good.
That's really been bothering me ever since I read that today. I was like, this is ridiculous. So, yeah. So no, I feel like it's wrong. It's just wrong. First of all, I hope that people would be willing to do what they needed to do, not only to help themselves, but help others. So in other words, that you would have some empathy and sympathy for other people. So you would just make decisions for yourself that were good for you and other people.
Right.
But that's on you. Your decision, your choice. To mandate it for the people, if you're not going to mandate it for everybody, it's a problem for me. It's the first time I'm going to be like, Adam Silver.
Yeah, come on.
What's happening, sir?
You
I like you. You're my boy.
Yeah.
This is usually not what we get from the NBA. So I'm really perplexed that how did you even decide? How do you decide?
Well, in fairness to him, right? Because I feel like he usually gets these things.
It right.
He nails these things.
Yeah.
But when you're dealing in this type of space, you also have to, I don't know what the union is for NBA staffers, but the NBA
players
PA,
or something, yeah.
The NBA PA may have pushed back on all players need to be mandated to get.
And if that's fine, if the PA did that, then y'all need to do that.
Right.
Just across it, fine. We can't force the players, then we can't force anybody else.
That's true.
Do what the NHL did. I don't like it, but at least, because I still say take a stance one way or the other. But at least the NHL just said, hey, you know what? Fine. You don't want to get a vaccine, whether you're a staffer or a player, you can't be within 12 feet of somebody. So if you can't do work, if you got to work with somebody, you can't do that job no more.
Because you can't be a virtual hockey player. You cannot be a virtual hockey.
Last time I checked, I don't think that would work. We don't have e-hockey for the professional hockey. No, I don't think so. So, yeah. So I feel like you got to do one of the, like the NFL's kind of taking that same approach to it. You do it, but they haven't put any. The NHL is the first one to say, "Hey, this is you. It's up to you. But if you do this, you can't be blah blah blah." Isn't this going to affect the NFL too? Well, no, because it's indoors. They said indoors.
Yeah, indoors.
It says indoors. Like as long as it's something that's happening indoors, they said that's why you have to be. So that's why it's basketball and not football.
Yeah, okay. And none of the New York teams play.
Nobody play indoors from California or New York.
SoFi Stadium is a dome.
Yeah, but it's got a.
Oh, it does have like the little open.
Yeah, it's got the open.
Right.
Yeah, it ain't completely shutting.
It's not the exact same as like what's over top of. No, that's something totally different. I was about to say the Miami Dolphin Stadium, how they put the thing over top of it.
Oh yeah, no.
But the whole outside part of SoFi Stadium,
SoFi is open.
It's open.
It's
open.
So
it's a roof on top of it, but it's open.
Yeah, like everything. It just got a covering, but it isn't like shut up, like shut that all the way around. Like
Right.
So no, they don't even that. So yeah. I don't know. This is interesting. All of this, I don't know. I'm just sick of things being divisive in our country, in our world. Like, can we just come to an agreement on like what we're really gonna do?
And then it gets turned political,
political, racial, all that. Because I would think that most of the players who have not been vaccinated happen to be African American. Not even other people of color, just African Americans.
Yeah. And to be fair, there is reason to distrust the government, but
absolutely,
no reason to distrust these virologists and some of these doctors who were saying like, "Hey, listen, we get it, we understand, but this is what the numbers are saying."
Right. And not even that. Like I just had this conversation with somebody today because they were worried about the vaccine numbers in their space, right? And I said, perhaps it's a good idea to inform people. So having like a Mythbusters type thing, where you just, this is what's out there in the world, but this is the real deal. This is how, like, and I don't know from whom they'll trust that information, but it needs to be vetted and given from someone that they will trust.
Shout out to Ron Rivera, who brought people into, you know, the Washington football team facility to kind of dispel some of those, you know, to dispel some of that misinformation. And their vaccination rate went from 60 and it jumped pretty quickly to 90%. So
and I think Arthur
like
Blank did the same thing. That's why the Falcons are 100% vaccinated, because they went and did that. They were like, no, we want you to have all of the information, because a well-informed decision is the thing, the key to all of this, right? An informed decision. So, yeah, but that's how I feel about those. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Okay.
All right, now let's. You know, I'm ready to get to this.
I know.
Is it time for Matt Nagy to go? I want your opinion on it first before I give my little soliloquy.
So, of course, I'm not promoting that someone be fired. So I'm not going to say fired. What I am going to say, though, is he probably needs to utilize somebody else to play call.
Okay, so he should be demoted.
Yeah. Okay, there we go. I'll take that.
There are very rare instances where I would advocate for someone to be fired. And every one of those instances involves sports. And so I'm going to say Matt Nagy should be fired.
Wow.
If he's the one calling the plays, which he probably shouldn't cop to this. If he's the one calling the plays, what we saw on Sunday, where they were playing against the Browns, was unacceptable. It seems like he had just one game plan without considering the quarterback. And he just went with the one game plan that fit all.
Yeah.
And so the fact that the only time that Justin Fields really ran was when he was running for his life, because he was sacked something with like, what, 6 times?
6.
Yeah. That's unacceptable. You know, I didn't see any of like moving the pocket, kind of using his strengths. They just had him as a sitting duck back there. And maybe that goes to the point of the people who were saying, like, no, it's not time for Justin Fields to start. But I just feel like you could maximize his talent a little bit better than what you did on Sunday.
Absolutely.
And if that's the effort you're going to give as a play caller, then not only do you not deserve to be the play caller, you don't deserve to be the head coach anymore. Because you had Mitchell Trubisky, you had the opportunity to go get Patrick Mahomes, and you declined. And so somebody needs to pay for that.
Yeah.
And you know, all due respect, Black coaches in the NFL don't get this many opportunities to mess up the way you are. And so I advocate for you being fired.
Wow. I mean, you make good points. Like the whole not going to get Patrick Mahomes, Mitchell Trubisky, I don't know what that was about. Anyway, but yeah. But I think you are a coach who wants, like, you would have loved Peyton or Tom. Because you believe in that traditional quarterback. And so what's the mark of a great coach? Is someone who can make those adaptations that they need to in order to be able to move the team forward. And so being able to, like you said, prepare and have a game plan in place, because you knew the time was going to come eventually when Justin Fields was going to be your quarterback. And so if you had taken the moments that you had while you had Andy Dalton on the field,
right,
to be preparing for when Justin had his shot, then I think you would have been in a better space. And so I feel like you're right in that you as a coach, head coach, play caller, have not prepared, which is your job,
right,
for what you have. No, or we talked about this in the production meeting, you don't have a clue how to use what you have, because we talked about who did he come under?
Andy Reid.
Andy Reid. Well, we know Andy Reid had Donovan McNabb, he had Michael Vick, he's got Patrick Mahomes, so he knows how to use a mobile quarterback.
Right.
And you brought up an interesting point in that is, because Andy Reid was the play caller.
Yeah.
You were the offensive coordinator. You never called any plays. And so maybe they knew already.
Right.
This ain't your strength, too.
The curious part about this is that now Eric Bieniemy actually calls the plays. So,
so he trusts Eric Bieniemy, but didn't trust you. This is what I'm saying. And shout out to Andy Reid. We praying for you. Yeah. Please, sir, continue to get better. That did something to me on Sunday to hear that. Yeah. So please continue to get better. I know he's under a lot of pressure between home and work. So please get better. But anyway, so that speaks volumes that Eric Bieniemy, you trusted him, but you didn't trust him. Maybe the Bears should have paid attention before they brought him in. That this was something that, come on now. Yeah. So I think he just doesn't know how.
Right.
So that's two things. One, you don't have the ability. Three things. You don't have the ability to be flexible. You haven't prepared, and you don't have the knowledge. For those reasons, I'm with you.
I was about to say, now you just said everything.
I just gave you all of the reasons.
All those reasons why somebody should get fired.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm on that note, yes. Yeah.
Now put the cameras on me, 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 put the cameras on me.